You dropped out of high school, right? How are you still friends with my husband, who graduated from Harvard? The bride of a childhood friend of mine scorned me at their wedding. Raising her eyebrows, she spoke disparagingly about my education. Losers don't belong here, so you can go home now. I'm doing you a favor and marking you as absent today. It happened too suddenly. I stood there not able to say a word. Seizing the opportunity, she continued her tirade. As I was standing there shocked, a woman came towards me. I had no idea what was about to happen. My name is Michael. I'm just an ordinary guy, nothing special. Neither particularly handsome nor tall. Just a completely ordinary person. 100 yards ahead, turn right. I heard the voice of the navigator from my phone, which was attached to the dashboard with some kind of sticky pad. It was a long straight road. I could clearly see where I needed to turn next. 100 yards. Must be that traffic light. Fortunately, even someone as ordinary as me has connections. An old friend was getting married and had sent me an invitation to his wedding. Just this moment, I was driving to the venue. I had something urgent this morning, so I'm heading straight from work, but it didn't seem to be a problem. It looks like I'll arrive in time. I heard this road usually has bad traffic, but I was lucky. I followed the directions and made a right turn. Upbeat music was playing on the radio. The radio program was one of those typical ones, where listeners would request their favorite songs. It's interesting because you can listen to a variety of songs, from trendy hits to nostalgic tunes, regardless of genre. Amidst the music, the voice of the navigator chimed in again. In 200 meters, turn left. Your destination will be on the left. Wow, there's the ocean. I had been invited to one of the country's top luxury resort hotel. It was located at a perfect distance, not too far nor too close to the city. The distance was perfect for escaping from everyday life, while having a good accessibility. In fact, there were many reviews on the internet similar to my thoughts. Almost all the rooms had an ocean view. Because of these features, this hotel was so popular it was hard to book. It's a luxury hotel, so the prices, well, high, but many people are willing to pay. You have arrived at your destination, ending navigation. The parking lot was already full. I found a spot and parked my car. I was feeling tired already, as it was quite a distance from my workplace. I took a deep breath and finished off the rest of my coffee that I had bought along the way. I turned off the engine, put my phone in my bag, and got out of the car. Whoa, that's some strong wind. As soon as I got out, my suit fluttered in the wind. I couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. It seems to be quite windy today. Maybe it's because we're by the sea. I'm starting to feel nervous. I muttered to myself as I pressed a black button on the door handle to lock the car. When I entered the hotel lobby, there was a sign that read "Welcome to Jacob and Emily's wedding." By the sound of all the chatter, it seemed as there were already a lot of people. I arrived about 40 minutes before start time, so I wasn't late, but I found myself walking faster towards the reception. I'm Michael, a friend of the groom. I introduced myself, specifying which side of a wedding party I was associated with, and completed the usual greetings. Here's a little something for the happy couple. My heart was beating a bit fast from the hurrying, but I tried to keep calm. I handed over the wedding gift and signed a guest book. I thought I wrote my name neatly, but from someone else's perspective, it might not look so great. After completing the formalities, I finally entered the venue. I saw some familiar faces, like colleagues from work. Both the bride and groom were high school classmates of mine. Especially the groom, Jacob, has been a friend since our elementary and middle school days. I had to drop out of high school for certain reasons, but Jacob was one of the few friends who kept in touch with me after that. When I was in my senior year of high school, I was involved in a major car accident, and both my parents passed away. I was the only one who survived, but back then, I was merely living, nothing more. It was as if I had lost everything except my life. I went through days of immense suffering. To add insult to injury, a certain truth came to light. My parents had been running a family business, which was struggling, and they had accumulated a significant amount of debt. I was able to pay it off with the insurance money, but there was hardly anything left. I had no choice but to start working to make a living. Looking back, I might have been able to use various support schemes. But I couldn't think that far ahead at the time and chose to quit high school and work steadily. Considering the burden of rent, I looked for a live-in job. Thinking the city would be too harsh, I decided to move to a rural area until I stabilized. In those desperate times, I worked tirelessly every day. Looking back, I might have been immersing myself in work to escape the reality of losing my parents. Now, I have no problems with my life and have no struggle in finance. In fact, I feel like I live a more comfortable life than before. There's still some time before the ceremony starts, so I headed to the restrooms. According to the floor map, there should be one on the same floor as the venue. Here it is. Wait, what? I saw the men's restroom sign and headed there, but there was a yellow board at the entrance. The sign was about knee-high, with large red letters saying cleaning in progress. There's nothing I can do if it's being cleaned. I remembered there was another one on the second floor, so I decided to go there. I went up the stairs and checked the floor map. It seemed to be right above the restroom I just tried. I hurried over. This one looked usable. Phew. After finishing my business and washing my hands, I wiped the water off with a handkerchief and checked my face in the mirror. No stubble left behind. Good. I rolled down my sleeves that I had pushed up to wash my hands and was about to head back to the venue when I heard a voice and stopped. The voice wasn't coming from the men's restroom. Is that the bride? As I passed by, I saw that the voice belonged to today's heroine, Emily. She was quietly discussing something with a wedding staff. Okay, so that's settled then. Understood. The male staff member had his black hair set with wax and was wearing a suit with a bow tie. After receiving instructions from the bride, he had nodded in agreement and hurried off. Caught staring at this scene, I unexpectedly made eye contact with Emily, who had remained there. Oh, you. Excuse me. She looked at me, surprised, and hurried over, making noises from her footsteps. You're Michael, right? Gosh, what are you doing here? It's obvious. I came because I was invited to the wedding. As always, she was so rude. Emily and Jacob had been dating since high school. They were known for their enviable relationship, even dubbed a perfect couple back then. I often hung out with Jacob, which for some reason made Emily see me as a rival. She always seemed to be competing with me. I can't get any time alone with Jacob because you were always around. Anything that had to do with Jacob, she would complain to me. What do I have to do with that? Don't mess with us just because you're not popular and don't have a girlfriend. She would pick fights over anything and always seemed antagonistic. I never really cared, but Jacob always felt sorry for her attitude. When I dropped out of high school, I discussed it with Jacob and other close friends, but I didn't tell Emily. I figured Jacob would tell her, so I didn't see the need to talk to her about it. And now, at our first meeting since then, she was hurling verbal spears at me again. Emily's aggressive tone hadn't changed over the years. Listening to her felt like going back in time, and in a strange way, it was almost comforting. But this wasn't the time for such optimistic thoughts. So, you dropped out of high school, right? That means your highest education is middle school, isn't it? She raised her eyebrows, looking down on me for being a high school dropout. Indeed, these days, getting a college degree isn't that difficult. But she had a reason to mock me. How can someone like you, from the bottom rung, still be friends with my husband who graduated from Harvard. The groom, who is my best friend, Jacob, had graduated from Harvard University. Although getting a university degree might not be difficult, there's a significant difference from dropping out of high school. When you look deeper, this doesn't determine someone's worth as a person. But naturally, she was proud to have a husband who graduated from one of the nation's top universities. Stay down where you belong, crawling in the mud. I bet Jacob is embarrassed to have a friend who's a middle school graduate. She was ruining her wedding dress, as she was attacking me while standing with one hand on her hip and weight on one leg. As for me, I was stunned by the sudden insults I had received. I just stood there, not able to say anything back. Taking advantage of my silence, she continued. I get it now. Your job is subcontracting for my husband's work, isn't it? That means you must have to be nice to him. She had a mischievous smile, as if she was plotting something. She also stretched out the ending of the words in an unpleasant way, making it obvious that she was trying to make me uncomfortable. Since my husband is too kind to say it, I'm telling you, Jacob is bothered too. I'll mark you as absent for the wedding. Saying that, her face turned serious. Then, she continued with a lower tone. Just go home already. Also, could you cut ties with my husband? Her sharp words left me speechless again. Emily headed back to the dressing room, paying no attention to me. I stood there in the hallway, watching her leave. I couldn't fathom why she kept hurling such lines at me. Regardless of her intentions, her words were a shock to me. It's true that Emily had always been tough on me and competitive since we were younger. But I remember it as not being about looking down or ridiculing me. So, even Jacob thinks that I'm bothering too. Those words of her hit me hard. I don't know if they're true or not. But what if it turns out that one of my few close friends really thinks of me that way? Maybe dropping out of high school and starting to work was a bad move after all. I had never really thought about it before, but now that she mentioned it, I realized that I had often been surprised by people's reactions to my educational background. Emily's tirade had taken a greater toll on me than I expected. If I looked in the mirror, I'd probably laugh at how dazed I looked. What should I do now? As I pondered, another woman, different from Emily, walked towards me. She walked elegantly, while her heels made a clicking sound. She was wearing a high-end necklace and earrings, and was dressed chicly yet modestly, but not overshadowing the groom and bride. That's where you were. I couldn't help but think how different she was from Emily from just a moment ago. Yeah, the restroom on the first floor was being cleaned. I had to hurry, so I came up here. Is that so? Well, speaking of which, she came up beside me, smiling gracefully, and whispered in my ear. If that matter gets out, his company is definitely going bankrupt. Isn't that right, boss? She spoke as if she was predicting the future. I returned to the venue with her. Her name was Charlotte. She works as my secretary at my company. Looking around with her, I noticed the crowd had grown even large. Jacob really knows how to gather an impressive crowd. Yeah, he does. Looking around, the attendees were indeed remarkable. Jacob comes from a family that runs a large business. He's connected with major companies and is a Harvard graduate himself. Basically, he's from a prominent family. Because it's his wedding, the level of the guests were impressively high. Feels more like a social gathering than a wedding, doesn't it? Most of them seem to know each other, but not all. Those unfamiliar with others sight as a chance, engaging in business card exchanges and talks. Really, what are they doing at someone else's wedding? Is that a newspaper company over there? Following her gaze, I saw a group that appeared to be journalists. I was impressed that Jacob had become a well-known businessman, enough to make the news with his wedding, but something felt off. The journalists looked too solemn for just attending a wedding. They seemed to be pondering something serious, perhaps another announcement. Also, Emily's behavior had me wondering. After some thought, I realized her behavior was far from normal. Not just her harsh tone, but she was also speaking fast. It was as if she was being chased by something. There was an undeniable sense of discomfort. "Charlotte, there's definitely something." Just as I was about to speak to my secretary, the lights in the venue dimmed. A spotlight shone on the main entrance, and the MC's voice began to come through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for the wedding of Jacob Smith and Emily. We appreciate your presence." Following the MC's announcement, the attendees moved to their assigned seats. It was odd to see the journalists seated in front of the guests. I didn't notice before, but among the journalists were people with cameras. Could they be reporters from a television station? It seemed Jacob was about to make a significant announcement. Apart from the seating arrangement, the ceremony proceeded smoothly and amicably. I got a bit sleepy due to too many speeches, but that's expected for a wedding of this scale. All right, the time has come. The ceremony was almost over. Jacob finally took the microphone. He began by expressing gratitude for being able to celebrate this day. He thanked his parents, colleagues, and even me. "And now, I have another announcement to make. I'm sure this is what the media here is most excited about." Emily beside with teary eyes, Jacob spoke firmly. His attempt at a speech with borderline humorous didn't seem to go over very well. "Ha ha ha." Charlotte was the only one in the audience who seemed to get the joke. Maybe the sarcastic element was a bit too strong. I'll lend my internal critique of his attempt at humor here. I shifted my focus to the groom and listened attentively to his words. Jacob and Emily exchanged glances, as if steeling themselves, then faced forward again. "I have a very important announcement for everyone here. Please listen carefully." With that, he signaled the staff with his hand. Several staff members began setting up a large screen, a laptop, and a projector. The lights dimmed again, and everyone's attention turned to the screen. Cameramans, presumably from a television station, aimed their lens at the screen. Suddenly, there was some commotion at the back of the room. "What is this, Jacob? What are you doing?" The voice belonged to Jacob's father. He was the president of the company, where Jacob serves as an executive. People nearby were trying to calm him down. "Please go ahead." The staff connected the projector to the laptop. After a few seconds of delay, scanned documents appeared on the screen. "Jacob, what have you done?" Seeing the documents, Jacob's father began to cause a scene again. No wonder. The documents were clear evidence of his father's wrongdoing. "Answer me, Jacob, Jacob." But Jacob, the reason of his father's anger, chose to ignore him. Jacob remained calm and continued his explanation. "First, these documents show illegal profits obtained from transactions with clients. We will distribute these files to the media present here, so please rest assured." Meanwhile, his father and others who seemed to have benefited from the misconduct were causing a disturbance. It appeared they were trying to stop Jacob's expose, but he had anticipated this situation. Jacob's subordinates were strategically placed throughout the venue, completely neutralizing the rioters. It must have been a setup to ensure no disruptions. Oh dear, things have gotten quite serious. Yeah, but it's totally Jacob's strategic win. Jacob, probably tense, continued calmly. "Next, here's evidence of wrongful termination. My father has been unjustly firing employees who opposed him or whom he didn't like. This is my guess, but someone must have tried to expose his wrongdoing. However, it seems that the employee was threatened in some way and then forcefully terminated because Jacob's father had noticed the behavior. And now, this is the last big reveal. The home appliances manufactured by our affiliated company." The screen shifted from documents to blueprints of machinery. They were annotated with red circles and notes. It's a bit complex, but in short, despite knowing about a defect that should have led to a recall, my father continued to sell the products. In the bottom right of the blueprint had the manufacturer's name, model number, and product name written. Even though I'm not well versed in home appliances, the product was so well known and popular that even I recognized it. Meeting notes were also revealed, showing that the president was aware of the need for a recall. No accidents have been reported yet, but continuous usage could lead to serious incidents. This was all being announced in front of the media and business partners. It was a juicy story for the media, but for Jacob's father, it was a bombshell that could end everything. "Boss, look at that." I followed Charlotte's gaze and saw several people pointing their cell phones at the rioting father and the screen's content. Though not clear, it was evident they were likely live streaming. This is going to be huge. Is it all over for them, then? Their business was all quite substantial. Not only do they operate domestically, but they also had business that crossed international borders. I couldn't gauge the extent of the live stream, but it was definitely going online. Jacob, his father was desperately struggling, but even that was being broadcast. His attempt to stop the revelations only served as proof of Jacob's claims. "I will send all these facts to newspapers, TV stations, and publishers. We can't risk someone losing their life due to a major accident." I tried to convey this to my father, but he wouldn't understand. Gradually, more people began pointing their cell phones at the scene. The sound of camera shutters filled the room. I regret having to announce this here, but my wife understood. Jacob's father calmed down, as if he had given up and foreseen his impending doom. The rioters were being escorted out of the venue. "Please collect the wedding gifts you sent us at the reception when you leave, as they will be returned." As Jacob announced, Emily stood up beside him. "We apologize for all the inconvenience." Together, the bride and groom apologized to the audience. It was not the kind of scene you'd want to see at a wedding. Eventually, Jacob's father was also led outside. Those who remained at the venue were the ones who praised the couple's courage. The couple returned the wedding gifts to each guest and saw them off. After everyone left, Charlotte and I approached the couple. "That was intense. Tomorrow's newspapers will be something else." "Jer, it will be." Jacob, finally letting his guard down, was smiling with tears in his eyes. "Jacob, I told you to leave." Tears were already streaming down Emily's face. Crying or angry, or both, she looked at me with a conflicted expression. What happened was unbelievable. I had no choice but to reveal everything here. Even if I tried to announce it publicly, those allied with my dad would have stopped me. I barely had any freedom or say in the company. That's why he had to make the announcement at his wedding, where he had some autonomy. The idea was Emily's, and at first, Jacob had disagreed. Jacob was worried about ruining such an important occasion, a sentiment I completely understand. But as Emily watched Jacob become increasingly stressed and worn out, she couldn't stand it anymore and persuaded him thoroughly. Eventually, he agreed, which led to today's revelation. What my father did will definitely become a police matter. It's already out in the media, and the stock prices will plummet. I'm not going to get away unscathed either, Jacob said, looking down. However, Emily patted his back. "Ouch. I told you not to cry about it anymore. I've decided to stand by you, hadn't I?" "Sorry." Ever since high school, it seemed Jacob had always been under Emily's thumb. "But what about my job? That's why I'm telling you, if it comes to that, I'll support us." Emily. Her resolve was remarkable. Her words weren't something one could say lightly. Watching the timid Jacob and the assertive Emily, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha." Charlotte, though silent, seemed to be laughing too. "Hey, what's so funny? Just, the power dynamics in your marriage are exactly as I imagined, and well, what's that supposed to mean?" As adults, Jacob and I often talked as business partners. but laughing together, it felt like we were just friends again. After dropping out of high school, I worked hard. My earnest efforts gradually got recognized, leading to rapid promotions. Eventually, I was headhunted as an executive by my current company. Shortly after, I married the daughter of the then chairman. That seemed to have led me to becoming the president. By the way, my wife's name is Charlotte. She is the woman right here who is also my secretary. I was aware of the wrongdoing by Jacob's father. As you know, Jacob and I are business partners. We were always well informed about each other's affairs. I had thought he might announce it someday, but I never expected it to be today. Speaking of which, Emily. What is it? She awkwardly looked away from me. Was this morning's outburst, by any chance? No, it wasn't like that. Leave and cut ties, she said. Could it be that Emily's harsh words were spoken to protect me? The revelation could have escalated the situation further. I might have been injured in the ensuing chaos. And if anything happened to Jacob, as his partner, I could have been affected too. It seems like that was her own way of looking out for me. Is that so? You've always been a contrarian, haven't you? That's not what I meant. Emily's personality makes it hard to know her true intentions. Well, it's fine. I'll just assume she was protecting me in her own way. Emily was the one who chose the guests for the wedding. Due to the announcement, she focused on inviting media personnel, company associates, and those directly involved in the wrongdoing. However, Jacob insisted on sending me an invitation. My presence wasn't really what Emily wanted. That's why she tried to send me away in that manner. Thinking about it, I realized the odd feeling I had before the ceremony started. There were no private relations from either family present. That must have been why it felt more like a stiff social event. This also might have been another consideration of Emily's. Sorry about, you know. Suddenly, Emily apologized to me in a small voice. I stared at her, wide-eyed, surprised at what she had just said. What? No, nothing. Just surprised, that's all. Emily was now suddenly meek and hesitant. Seeing her like this, Jacob chuckled softly. Don't laugh at that. Sorry. Well, what you said to me earlier was a shock, but if it was to protect me, I'm grateful. As I half-jokingly expressed my thanks, Emily's ears turned bright red. That's not what I meant. You're such an annoying guy. You haven't changed at all since high school. And you haven't changed either, Emily. Like I laughed with Jacob, this reminded me again that some things really haven't changed. Though our positions and ages have changed beyond recognition, our fundamental nature remains the same as it was in high school. After a while, Jacob's company went bankrupt. Jacob abandoned his role as an executive and decided to start a new business of his own. I haven't heard the details yet, but he told me he wants to work on saving children without families. The reason I came to think this way is because of what happened to you, Michael. Jacob's voice on the phone sounded much more cheerful than on that wedding day. Me? Yeah, you dropping out of high school hit me and Emily pretty hard. We couldn't contact you, and the last time we saw you, you looked so troubled, we were worried. Back then, I tried to act like everything was fine, but it seems that my friends saw right through it. It's hard to tease Emily now about not being honest. I've always felt frustrated that I couldn't do anything for you. Hearing my friend's words, I felt my eyes getting watery. I didn't want to drop out either. But at that time, I couldn't see any other option. That's why I struggled alone. I've even cried all night. You're strangely tough and have managed to succeed on your own, but there are many kids who can't do that and give up on everything. I want to save those kids. The part about being strangely tough was a bit much. But I can't compete with his kindness and sense of justice. Hey, Jacob, if it's okay, let me support your new business. Really, you do that? Yeah, Leave it to me, we'll make it a success. I felt proud from the bottom of my heart for having Jacob as a best friend. The business Jacob had started seemed to be going well. Though not aimed at profit-making and apparently tough in management, it seemed a fulfilling work that brings smiles back to children's faces. When we talked about it at a meeting, he too was smiling. Despite the additional wrinkles, his face was just like it was in high school. Some things change with time, others do not. How we spend our time gradually changes our hearts. It's a kind of growth, in a way. But Jacob's straightforwardness and sense of justice are things I hope never to be lost. Reflecting on all that happened, that's what I've come to believe. "Tom, I'll leave the coffee here for you," said Emily. "Thanks, Emily," I replied. Her sweet voice always brings peace to my heart. "My name is Tom. I've lived a life without much luck with women. I'm a man in my 30s, but I never expected to find such an encounter in my new workplace. And just between us, Emily is the daughter of the company's CEO. None of my colleagues know this, but due to certain circumstances, I'm aware of it. She has this cute, slightly clumsy side to her. She always seems to trip over nothing. Whoa. That day, as usual, she tripped while carrying a stack of copied papers, spilling them and falling right on top of me. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Oh dear, I've fallen again," as I helped her up, feeling embarrassed but thinking she was cute. I was transferred here on her father's orders, and I'm grateful for that as it led me to meet her. Tom, could you let go of me now?" "Oh, sorry." Realizing what I was doing, I let go of her. She stood up, blushing slightly. "I'm really sorry. I was told by my dad to work hard." Tears welled up in her eyes. "It's okay. You're getting the hang of your job." I couldn't help but cheer her up. "I wonder if my dad will recognize my efforts." "He definitely will. You're doing great." "That's a relief." Her smile returned. Seeing her smile made me incredibly happy. Just when I was thinking how great it would be to slowly watch over Emily, the CEO's daughter with whom I've become close friends, suddenly, a new female co-worker came into my life, bringing a whirlwind of business to my everyday routine. "I'm Lisa, new here from the head office. Nice to meet everyone." She was Lisa, the new manager from the head office. The moment I saw her, I broke into a cold sweat. She seems intelligent and kind at first glance, but she's quite a handful. "Tom, long time no see." She greeted me with a bright smile. "Oh, it's been a while." "Well, look at you, not so bright. You're quite the talk of the town among us. The only one who got demoted and sent away." Is that so?" I quietly turned my face away, trying to ignore her. Lisa, the female manager, was notorious in the company for her sharp tongue. "Such a lukewarm reaction after so long. Shouldn't you be more appreciative of me, an elite employee?" Lisa smirked maliciously, her smile dripping with sarcasm. Just then, a spirited female voice came from behind. "That's not true. He's a very competent employee." "Oh, Emily, long time no see." "I understand you're a highly capable person from the head office, Lisa, but I don't think it's right for you to talk about a colleague like that. What's with you, young lady? Quite bold, aren't you? Just a little girl puffing herself up. You're nothing but a dropout who can only serve coffee. Don't act so high and mighty." I inwardly groaned at her harsh words towards Emily, the CEO's daughter. But only I and a few executives know that she's the daughter of the CEO. I can't reveal that here. As I worried, Emily, to my surprise, responded firmly to Lisa. "Yes, I do serve coffee, but I do other work too, and I'm not acting high and mighty. I've never belittled others like you. Should a manager like you even be demeaning her subordinates like this? You're so annoying, young lady." "What about you, old lady?" "What? Emily, maybe we should." "Don't stop me. I mean, This is kind of a low-level argument. I desperately tried to calm them both. But Lisa and Emily just glared at me. Humph. I'll let you off this time, young lady. Hope you don't regret it, old lady. They glared fiercely at each other, arguing. Watching them, I felt utterly disheartened. One of those nights, I called Dad. He's my mentor and a benefactor. Whenever I have troubles at work, I always talk to Dad. Dad, I'm not sure I can keep up with this job. What? You were the one who wanted to try it. Today, there was a fierce clash between two women at work. I didn't take sides, but how are they doing now? They do their jobs seriously, but the atmosphere is tense and heavy. It's like I have a hole in my stomach. Ah, that's good. It's training to toughen up your stomach so it doesn't get a hole. That's a positive way to think about it. Dad just laughed heartily at my complaints. But hearing his laughter makes my own troubles seem smaller. Somehow, it gives me the strength to keep going a bit longer. But you know, it seems so fun there. Maybe I should come and visit. What? I mean, I'm thinking about visiting the branch for a tour. It's no big deal, right? I won't cause any trouble with work. Wait a minute. If you suddenly show up, everyone at the office will be shocked. Don't worry, I'll let them know in advance. All right then, that's settled. With that, Dad ended the call abruptly. I was left sweating again, listening to the dial tone of the ended call. And then, the day arrived. What's going on? The CEO is coming to our branch. Did someone mess up? He hardly ever comes here. What's this all about? Lisa, who had just arrived on a business trip, was in a bit of a panic. Emily looked anxious too. Oh no, Dad's coming. What if everyone finds out who I really am? It'd be so embarrassing if they knew the CEO's daughter is so clumsy. Emily seemed worried about her secret being revealed. In fact, Dad is none other than the CEO of the company I work for. That is, Emily's father. Due to certain circumstances, I was employed by Dad and ended up working at this branch. Hey everyone, how's it going? There he was, Dad, I mean, the CEO, had arrived. At the sound of his voice, all the employees straightened up. Lisa approached him with a subservient smile. Thank you for taking the trouble to come all the way here. Oh no, I wish he would just go back. Meanwhile, Emily, almost in tears, was preparing coffee for the CEO. And just as she was about to serve him the coffee, it happened. I brought your coffee. Ugh, she tripped over nothing. Emily's special talent had unfortunately made its appearance. The tray she was holding described a perfect parabola, and the cup on it flipped over. The coffee ended up right on the CEO's lap. Ah, hot, it's burning. The CEO's scream echoed around. What are you doing? Lisa exclaimed in near hysteria, accidentally dousing the CEO with water from a nearby vase in her agitation. Hey, that's cold. Towels, towels. Sir, are you all right? Let's first check for burns and cool them down. Could you please come to a separate room? I'll go buy a new suit for you right away. Ah, all right. I led the drenched CEO to another room. Lisa and Emily stood frozen in place. Ah, my daughter. She really is a klutz. Indeed. As we wiped the CEO's suit with towels, we talked. So, from your perspective, has she grown? Yes, she's gotten much better at making coffee. Despite today's incident, she usually serves delicious coffee very gracefully, and her paperwork skills have improved significantly since she started. That's good to hear. She's trying in her own way. Luckily, the CEO wasn't badly burned. And we continued to talk about Emily. So, what do you think about her? Is she attractive? What do you mean? I've heard rumors that Lisa, the manager, seems to be interested in you. She's the type to be mean to those she likes. Heh. The CEO chuckled. I didn't come here to be in a rom-com. I know, but I'm the one who asked you to watch over my daughter. Well, yes, but officially, I was demoted, but in reality, I was employed to watch over Emily at the behest of the CEO. How many years ago was it that I met the CEO? Back then, I was working at the previous company, worn out physically and mentally from overwork. I found myself contemplating jumping onto the tracks while staring at them, and it was this CEO who spoke to me. After that incident, I quit my previous job and transferred to the company where the CEO, Dad, worked. I'm really grateful to you. Haha, I'd be at a loss without someone to share my worries with. I'm truly happy you became my special agent. But it would be a big deal if his daughter found out. What's the matter? If you become my son-in-law, everything will fall into place. I was taken aback by the CEO's words, accompanied by a wink. But having the CEO as a father-in-law is a bit. Why not? I'd be thrilled to have you as my son. The CEO beamed at me. Looking at him, I couldn't help but imagine that future. Thank you so much for the other day. Emily bowed her head. It's all thanks to you, Tom, that my father didn't get burned. I don't know how to thank you enough. No, it's part of my job. I smiled at her, and as she looked up, Emily's face brightened into a smile. If you don't mind, how about dinner tonight as a thank you? My treat, of course. Her words caught me off guard. Officially, it was just a thank you, but a dinner between a man and a woman sounded like a date. The CEO said last week that he wouldn't mind having me as a son. I remembered his words and broke into a cold sweat. Wait a minute. I thought she was cute, but I hadn't considered getting that close to her. What are you two doing? Slacking off at work? Lisa's angry voice echoed from the back of the office. We're not slacking. I just invited him for dinner. Is there a problem? Dinner? Lisa seemed shocked by Emily's triumphant declaration. Well, whatever. What do you see in such a guy, Humph? If I were to get married, I'd prefer someone like Tom. What did you say? Lisa reacted dramatically to Emily's words. Enough with this argument, please. I was thinking just that when the ringtone of my smartphone began to sound. Sorry. I have a call for work. I need to go. Wait a minute. Ignoring the two of them, I headed to the break room on the floor. The caller was the CEO. With a bad feeling, I answered the phone. What are you calling at this time? Well, I thought by now my daughter might have made a move on you. Did she invite you to dinner? So, it was your doing. Just a little advice. My daughter seems to be quite interested in you and wanted to get closer, so I told her to invite you to dinner. I sighed deeply at the CEO's cheerful words. It seems he really wants to see me and Emily together. Thinking about why he would want that, I replied to the CEO. All right, I'll join her for dinner today, but please refrain from such advice in the future. What? Don't you want my daughter as your wife? It's not that. I just want to figure out things about her on my own. Oh, I see. I didn't realize you were thinking so seriously about my daughter. Thank you. The CEO responded, and after hearing his words, I ended the call. Then, with a sigh of relief, I muttered to myself. I can handle things myself without his help. I do have feelings for Emily. I wanted to respond to her feelings on my own terms. Can we continue our conversation? Yes. Emily called me from outside the break room. Actually, I have something to tell you. This is the time for me to boldly express my feelings as a man. I'm fully determined. I straightened my tie. Thanks to that dad who saved my life, I was able to meet her. I cherish the encounters with both him and her, and I intend to hold on to them for a lifetime.